Greetings, diners, and welcome to another edition of The Cooking Zone here on the Doomstead Diner. Today, we're in another one of my experiments in sous vide cooking without buying an expensive sous vide cooking device that costs anywhere from $100 to $200. I had moderate success utilizing some of my electric equipment, but it was not to my satisfaction, at least not for some of the more delicate jobs that I have ahead of me that I want to do. And this is one of them. This one is actually a pretty complex arrangement of several different cooking methods, and to get an absolutely ideal piece of meat at the end for consumption. So what you see right here is one of my cast irons, and this is going to be used to sear the meat. Obviously, the heat is not on right now, or I wouldn't be putting my fingers on the pan. I am recording this prior to actually searing or starting the sear of the meat, because once I do start it, very shortly thereafter, I am going to have to turn on the, can I point up here? Yeah, sort of. I point up like that. I have to turn on the fan and the vent. All right, we are back now, ready to get searing. The pan is heating up. I can no longer stick my fingers on it. And I have my meat at the ready. Okay. My choice of meat for today's experiment is short ribs, bone in, okay? And a somewhat difficult piece of meat to cook, generally speaking, because it's a little tough, and so usually it needs long smoking times and stuff like that to get it tender. And the way I want to use it, though, smoking isn't going to work, and what I want to do with it. And also another choice would be the Instapot, pressure cooking, but that also wouldn't give me the results that I want. So we're trying this, and we're going to see how it goes. I'm going to get my temperature, and I'm at 309. Okay, I know it's sideways, but that's the best I can do. And I want it hotter than that. I want this thing screaming hot. All right? And then I will drop the short ribs on there. I'm going to sear them on each side, okay, for about a minute to get them nice and brown and tasty looking, and also to caramelize the meat, which gives it an additional complexity to the flavor of the meat. So that's the objective of this part. After this will come the actual sous vide stewing, which I demonstrated before with the electrics, but you'll see it again here in a few minutes. Okay, I will drop on one of these pieces of meat. Oh, that is getting hot. I can't even keep my hand over it that high. Drop on one of these pieces of meat, and then I'm going to be turning on the fan, so the camera's going to get shut down. And we'll be back for the sous vide portion. All right, here we go. Well, wait a minute. Let me double check the temperature first. Okay, 447 now. That is getting pretty close to screaming hot. 500 would be better. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds or so of time to see if we get there. 475. Can you read upside down? Is that better than sideways? And oh, see, I'm starting to smoke. All right, I got to turn off the camera. All right, I have turned off the heat. The smoke has diminished. Temperature of the skillet is now below the smoke point of the grease and so forth that renders out of the beef. What temperature is it at now? Down to 249. Yeah, get to read upside down again. And I actually took the meat out, let the pan cool down, then put it back so you guys have a chance to see it. You should smell the aroma in the Cooking Zone kitchen right now. It is just fantastic. These guys were marinated overnight in my secret marinade for this cook, and I will. It won't be so secret by the end because I will let you guys know what I used for it. And now I've got to transfer them back into a bag, a watertight bag, to cook in the sous vide method. And that part is going to be coming up next. So I will see you then. All right. Where can I put my hand where you can see it? There it is. Without my talking hand, where would you be? All right. What I am using this time, rather than just a standard newfangled kitchen pot, is a Dutch oven, a cast iron Dutch oven. And a couple of reasons for that. It's larger, and I've got more meat than would really fit in that smaller pot that I used for the filet mignon. And also, more importantly, there's a lot more thermal mass in this setup. And so whatever temperature that it's at, when I drop in the meat, it will tend to stay at without too much change. And as you can see, the temperature is currently at 120 Fahrenheit, which is a little on the low side. I'm going to see if I can get it up a little bit here, but I'm going to put the meat in before it gets up anyway in temperature. And then once it gets to about 125, 128 or so, that's where I'm going to want to hold it at for the sous vide cook, which will run fairly long for these short ribs. I'm going to do it for around 10 hours, I think. I'm going to try for this. I think that'll work. 125 to 128 is pretty low by meat standards for most people. It should give me a pretty rare piece of meat, but because of the length of the cook time, it should tenderize the meat the way I want it. So I should get it both rare and tender, which is my goal for this meat. And then there will be still a further third stage of cooking for it once it comes out of the sous vide pot. Out is up, see? Out, like it comes up out of the pot. All right, so now the big moment. I'm going to drop the meat into the sous vide pot. Okay, and we are in a hefty bag. All right, and we want to get all of our meat under the water. Okay. And once you get it down in there, the air should pretty well come out of the bag. You want to get the air out. You want the bag to be touching the skin or touching the meat everywhere. So the water is basically, except for the thin skin of the plastic, is all the way in the water. Okay, and it's not right now. I'm probably gonna have to add some water to this business, which is gonna change my temperature radically. But you know, it's an experiment. That's just what happens in experiments. I also am gonna have to get the air out of that bag a little bit better, which I have a method for doing that, but I can't do it on camera. So I'll be back once I've got it properly covered and the bag sealed up. All right, I'll be back. All right, we have more water in the pot, and our sous vide bag has most of the air pushed out of it. Not as good as I would like, and maybe next time I'll use a vacuum sealer if this doesn't work too well. We'll see. But it's not letting any water in, which is the most important thing. And so now it's hurry up and wait, okay? We've got a good 10 hours or so to go on the plan here. As you can see, the temperature is back up to about 128 degrees Fahrenheit. And you might be able to even make out what the Celsius temperature is. I can't quite make it out, but it's on the bottom scale. And then after that, we're going to move on. And this is, so far, a very interesting experiment. I can't wait to see how it turns out. All right, I'll be back when the beef is finished stewing in the sous vide pot, and we're ready to get on to the next portion of this cook. See you later. All right, diners. It is 24 hours later, and I decided to let my sous vide ribs, short ribs, go overnight. I got my system here to finally hold a temperature steady. In this case, at about 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Which is just over about 55 degrees Celsius, something like that. And as you can see, I've got the short ribs are being weighted down with a can of black beans. and I decided to leave them in for the additional time because everything that I have read and watched about sous vide is that the longer you leave it in, the more tender the meat comes out. And there are guys that are doing 48-hour cooks with this. So I figured, well, what the hell? I'll go for a full 24. And I'm not going to wait 48 because I don't feel like keeping this thing running until tomorrow. So now what I'm going to do is get started on the sauce that's going to go with this, and then I'm going to pull the meat out of the sous vide pot and get it ready for the next stage of the cook, which I'll let you know what that is once I got it out and whatnot. So we'll be back in just a couple of minutes with the sauce production. Which you've seen most of before, so I won't go into that much detail in that. All right, back in a minute. Good morning, diners. And we are down to the final stages of the great sous vide short ribs cook. And as I mentioned in the prior segment, I decided to let it go all night in the sous vide pot. So we are actually doing this preparation, the rest of the preparation, and cook in the early morning on, it's a Friday, I think. And what we have here in this pan is, if you remember back that far, we did the searing of the meat, of the short ribs, in this cast iron pan. And so what you have here is the leavings from the meat and the fat and so forth. And I'm going to use that for sauteing up mushrooms to go with this. And I love mushrooms with my steak. And in this case, we're using the giants of the mushroom field, Portabellas. Nice big ones. All right, and I have 4 short ribs, so I'm going to use 4 of these Portabellas for those short ribs. All right, and besides the grease and leavings that's already in there, I'm going to add to this mixture a nice generous pat of butter, because butter and mushrooms go together like steak and potatoes, or potatoes and sour cream. I don't know, I'm sure you could think of a lot of other ones, of those things that go well with each other. And now our temperature is not going to be too overly hot for this saute. We basically just want to drive some of the moisture out of the mushrooms. I don't want to overcook these mushrooms. I want them to still be pretty meaty, and this also is going to go to make a sauce as well. And on some occasions I will cook the mushrooms in the sauce when I do the sauce, so the mushrooms absorb the sauce flavor, but I'm not going to do that in this case. I am going to saute these down, then take them out, then do the sauce, and then put the mushrooms and the meat back in the sauce briefly before I then go ahead and serve it up. So that is the general pattern that's going to go down here. And the sous vide, it's probably, you know, I could take it out of the pot any time now, but it'll stay in there until this gets done and I'm ready to be bringing the meat to join with all the other parts of the meal. All right, now let's get these mushrooms flipped over. See how they're doing on the other side. Oh, look at that nice, beautiful brown color. Oh, and I smell the herbs and the Cabernet wine and the garlic that went into the rub that I used on there. And then, you know, I didn't put too much on there. I think I might have put some rosemary also. I'm not sure. I can't remember now. And that's one of the things you'll find with my recipes, is that, you know, I'll be throwing different things in, and then I'll make something really good, and I won't remember what was in there. But you know, I also don't remember the bad ones, right? And you can see the water is starting to bubble out, and the mushroom's starting to cook down a little bit. Okay, we'll give them a couple of more minutes. And I might cut some of this out of the video so it's not too long for you. But I do want you to see at least the beginning of the sauce preparation, because that's an important part of this whole deal. And part of the reason that I want these mushrooms to have good body and not be kind of floppy things is because of the way in which I'm going to present this meal. I'm doing this as a kind of fusion of two cooking styles and methods. It's got some French elements in the sauce, a Cabernet sauce and so forth, but also in the marinade that I used and in the presentation, it's got elements of Japanese, teriyaki steak to be precise. And so I'm going to be cutting up these short ribs into slices that I'll lay out on a little platter with the mushrooms, and they'll be all cut in advance in the Japanese style, so you know, if you're eating a Japanese restaurant, you don't need a knife because the chef does all the cutting for you. You just have bite-sized pieces that you pick up with your chopsticks. So that will be the presentation of the meal, which will come. I'll probably be eating it for an early lunch today, because I want to eat this thing, or at least one of the ribs, right after I get it done, while it's still like fresh off the cook. And then the other ones will go in the refrigerator, and I will microwave them, or maybe I'll slice them thinner and use them for sandwiches. I'll see how it comes out. Alright, these are about ready to come out, and it's about ready to make the sauce time. So let me find something to put these guys in. Right there. There's one mushroom. Two, and you see as I stick the fork in that they still have good body to them. They're not floppy. Floppy, sloppy. And they've absorbed good flavor from the leavings that were in there. And now I'm going to add to what remains. This was the marinade that the steak was in overnight prior to the sous vide. Okay, and that is going to go in there. And it's got in it, besides the Cabernet wine, it's got soy sauce and teriyaki sauce and a little bit of Worcestershire, about a tablespoon, and then a little dumpling sauce, dipping sauce for sweetness. So interesting combination, I hope. We'll see. And that is one of the really fun parts about cooking, which is not to precisely and slavishly follow recipes. Experiment a little. I'm adding now some beef broth to that, and now I'm going to cook down on the sauce probably about 2/3 of the liquid, and see where we're at, and then probably add a little bit of cornstarch, maybe a half a teaspoon or so, dissolved in water, to thicken it up before I spoon it over the steak and the mushrooms in the final presentation. Alright, so that's it for all video for this portion of the cook. I'll get that sauce ready, and then I've got to go get the ribs out of the sous vide pot. Alright, we'll see you in a bit. The short ribs are out of the sous vide pot and ready for carving. We shall get revealed. What does the interior look like? What is the level of doneness after 20 hours stewing in the sous vide pot at approximately 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay? Alright, here we go. Let's go with this big boy first. Okay. And we're going to cut him right by the bone and get all the best meat off in one hunk. And what is it going to look like is the question. Oh, look at that. Look at that meat juiciness. Is that heaven or what? Ooh, and look at all the meat that I left on the bone. Holy cow. I did not do a good job. I would not pass muster in sushi school. I have to do a second cut to get the rest of it off. Oh, this piece looks even nicer. More fat-filled. Ew, my cutting skills are for shit with my crippled arms. Ew, look at that. Look. Look at the glow. Look at the moisture. Look at the color. Is that the perfect color or what? Oh, yes. Alright, we still got to know what the flavor is going to be like. I think I'll slice one more piece off here to munch out on. Let you guys know what it's like. In fact, that's what I'm going to do with the rest of this guy. Just slice off little pieces. Mmm! Holy cow! Mmm! Oh, the texture is just, it's like butter. Oh, so tender. Oh, like no short rib I ever had. Oh, that's good. Oh, I can have some more from the end. This usually dries out in any other form of cooking, but look at here. It's still same moist, good looks. Of course, it's got a little tendon in there. But even the tendon is tenderized. Tenderized? Oh, that is just good stuff. Alright. I am going to cut the rest of these open. I already did this one, actually. You can see that one too, see? Also very nice. And I'm going to get them sliced up. I'll be cutting them across the grain to get maximum tenderness in each bite. And then I'll be laying it out, and you'll see the picture of the final product before the scrolling credits, or on the blog, or wherever you read or view Cooking Zone recipes and methods. And that's all the cooking doom. This time, until next time, here on Meatosaurus Central, the cooking zone of the Doomstead Diner. And don't forget, join us inside the diner to discuss great recipes, great food, and also, along with it, the oncoming collapse of industrial civilization. You'll find the URL in the rolling credits. They come right after this. Hasta la carne.